Hi, it's Sean Haynes with the Agri CFO Advisory Services, speaking for the Ag Center again. Today's update on dairy markets. Prices down about 40 to 70 cents across the board for the next 4 to 6 months. We got a little bit of lift coming up in the forward months, hopefully coming out of the summer when we get back into school and fluid milk kind of picks things up again. Butter volumes are up 3.5% over last year, but they're down month to month, which usually doesn't happen from February to March. What's really killing the U.S. dairy price is cheese and powder. Spot prices down, below $11 hundredweight now for cheese milk in those areas. Relative to the world market, U.S. cheese is expensive, so that's keeping inventories high here, and that's kind of keeping the prices pushed down. Some bright spots: feed costs seem to be coming off a little bit. Non-test hay because of volumes coming off, not quite as expensive as it was last year. Silage costs are a little high, but corn and soy coming down a little bit. So energy and protein coming off a little bit. Hopefully this crop size estimate that they get in the next 4 months shows a large crop, kind of helps reduce the price there and then get some relief on the feed cost side at least. Bull calves still high over the $300 mark for crossbreds, pulling up the Holstein market as well. Still tough for the California dairy market for the next 6 months at least. So hope we can hang on and hope for better times. Cattle inventories remain low. Beef prices keep inching up. We're looking at the 235 to 260 range for 4.5 weights right now. The long range forecast, it's all keeps creeping up 2-3 cents a week so far. You're anywhere from 225 to 256 for the same cattle. Consumption's slowing down a little bit. These high retail prices are kind of pushing back consumption a little bit. And box beef is still trading at $3.11 for choice, $2.84 for select range. So there's still profit in there for the packers of $100 to $200 per head, even with higher feed costs at the feedlot. The only thing I see on the horizon that may be a little bit more of a worry going forward is this continued push toward renewable fuels, read ethanol, which is going to take corn and soy out of the markets, which could push prices up in the next 1 to 2 years. So that is a little bit of a threat to the U.S. beef industry, and the fact that the feed yards have to pay much more for feed if that in fact came out. But otherwise, things still look pretty rosy for California beef producers for the near future. Walnuts spiked up a little bit last week. Chandler's kind of crossed the dollar mark. They've kind of settled back down into the 90-cent range again, with Howard's about 75 cents. Anything else, dark meats, that's not a Chandler or Howard or Tulare, it's just really not getting a price. I'm kind of wondering when they're going to make the decision, start pulling a lot of acreage out. So we won't see a real bearing acreage report on walnuts for at least 4 to 5, maybe 6 months. Almonds continue to tick up. There's a lot of continued pressure and worry about this almond crop that's sitting out there on the trees. You're getting a wide range of estimates to, looking fine to 40% of normal. The walnut and industry continues to look like it's going to be stressed. Almonds, there's some bright looks ahead, especially if you've got a decent crop. And then if that crop comes in low, we might see a spike in prices. So we have some positive movement there. And then hopefully, we're talking to a lot of folks on the almond side too about the possibility of, nut prices get progressively higher, 250, 275, right? Get a little crazy, maybe even possibly pre-selling the 23 crop to make sure that you get some of those gains. But other than that, it's kind of the quick and dirty on nut markets. Thanks. Test hay continues to stay high in the $400 range plus. Lower quality cutting hay is coming out in the down to 285 range, up in the mid-3 range. Wheat note hay's come off quite a bit, 150 to 180 sitting in the stack in most places. And so, it seems to be a decent availability of that and not quite as much of demand as in prior years. Silage, however, has just got a pretty crazy demand for it. A lot of damage down south. Folks can't even get the crop off of the field, and or the pits getting ruined. So wheat, silage, it seems to be averaging anywhere from $50 to $55 per ton in the field. A lot of talk about corn silage right now, what that's going to be going forward. We're hearing 70, 75 up north. As you go south market, those prices move up. Oat, wheat silage, looking at 75, 70 range in the field. Corn planting is getting pushed out a little bit. It's a little late versus last year, probably 3 to 4 weeks because of all this weather. Tomatoes, everybody's still in full planting mode. They're way behind 4 to 6 weeks probably from last year. Everybody's back in the field just killing it, trying to get as many plants as they can in a short period of time. Cotton planting is getting some initial readings that cotton plantings are way down because of flooding down south. And then, just the competing crop being tomatoes. If I'm given a tomato crop that's highly profitable and then a cotton crop that's not quite so much, and I've given an option of planting one of the two, I'm going to go with a more highly profitable crop. Short-term bond markets really pushed up high this week. 3-month bonds are more expensive than 1-year bonds right now. Generally, overall markets on the interest rate side just keep pushing up. Haven't seen a lot of pressure on house prices because of that increasing rate environment that we continue to see out there. Jumbos were usually trading about a point below regular mortgage loans. They've kind of almost caught up, part of it being that new pricing scheme that started May 1 with the Fed, I think. Normal mortgage loans between 6 and 7% for 20, 30-year rates. You're probably about 5.75 to about 6.5% for a jumbo loan right now. Farm lending rates have kind of pushed up too. The floating rates around the 7 range for most 30-day money, and then it picked up all the way up to 8% on the 30-year notes that are out there, with a 10-year note in the mid-6s to mid-7s. Again, no pressure downward on real estate prices so far because of that, even with commodities being off a little bit. Interest rates are definitely a factor in farming right now. It's going to cost $200-300 more per acre to carry these crops. FOMC has their rate decision next month. We should see, or this month, actually, we're now in May. So the next week or two, we should see them kind of come out with their decision. Everybody's expecting a 1/4 point to a 1/2 point rise in rates because inflation just continues to be in there, right? The core inflation rate's still up, even though the regular inflation's down. And so until they get that under wraps, we're not really going to see rates come off a little bit. As I go around up and down the valley here in California and speak to all my clients that we manage finances for and economics for, one of the things that's been kind of a recurring thing when commodities are under pressure like they are, or even not when they're not under pressure, when things are really hot, you tend to start to think tactically versus strategically, right? Tactics are really the things that you do day to day that you execute to make the strategy work. And so a lot of operations really don't spend enough time saying where they want to be in 1, 3, and 5 years, right? All of those things should be dictating your tactics on a day-to-day basis. So it's just some advice I give that, again, don't live tactically. Tactics are important, but if you have a strategy that says where I'm at and where I want to go and what that's going to look like, it's always going to change, but you got to review it all the time. And then from there, back into the steps and features that have to be, put in place to get to that end strategy, right? That's how you should be living. That's how you should be operating your business. Strategy is defining the win, right? Tactics are all the things I have to do to make that win happen, all the battles I've got to fight. Hopefully that helps you guys kind of put your heads around how you should be operating in these times and when you're driving around your trucks. Thanks. Bye.